Hi, I'm Aaron and I'm a Norse pagan, and welcome to the hipster of Odin. Today I am actually a little bit doing a different video recently, which is very similar to a lot of my older videos where I used to talk about the Lamvatir spirit. So yeah, I was just going across the stream because there's this stream called Ravensbourne River. And in Ravensbourne River, there's obviously like these berries, like these wild berries that you can actually eat. And obviously these wild berries are known as like blackberries. And these blackberries are all the way across the stream, all the way until you get to like the Harrow Lake area. And they're like just like these natural little blackberries that you can eat. And it's like nature's little snack when you can eat something when you're hiking towards your destination. I just thought it was a very... So since we've moved down to Hornchurch, I didn't realise how much cool things there actually was down here. But actually at Ravensbourne River, there's all these bushes filled with just blackberries. So I'm not entirely sure if you see it, but right there and all around here you can see that there are these wild fruits just naturally growing along this side. And you know, I was like spending some time with my son, and I saw this guy with like a bucket full of like blackberries, and I'm thinking, berry picking? And he was like, yeah, it's ripe season. I thought, are you sure we can eat these? And he was like, well, the red ones, as you can see here, the red ones are still like not ripened yet, but the black ones are actually ripe and ready to eat. And he says if you pull it and it doesn't have a lot of like any kind of tension or anything like this, then it's actually good and it's ripe to eat. And if it comes off naturally, it's fine. Obviously, most people would say there's no point of eating this because, you know, it's not washed and all this, but nature provides. This is the reason why I say nature is always my church, because if we really think about it, they produce little things like this. And that one's a sour one. And that one just fell off. But I spoke to a guy who was just naturally coming through here, and he actually said to me that the ones hiding from the sun, just hiding in a leaf, were actually the sweeter ones, and the ones that are in the sun actually are more sour or bitter in taste. So this is lovely, because what I've just realized about moving down to Hornchurch is that I'm finding more different people, and these people are not pagans. They're just everyday people living everyday normal lives. And to know that we've just had like this little bonding moment where we're actually like, and everyone who comes down this path, like just earlier I just saw a man coming down here and I felt like really out of place because I'm picking berries, and he just picked the berry and he just ate it, and I was like, so everyone's doing it. And this is nature. Nature will always grow this out. And this actually comes all the way from that way. So down that way is the starting of Ravensbourne River. And it goes all the way down that way. It goes all the way down that side of the river area, all the way down into the stream. And all of these berries grow all the way down there. So it's like this small little snack on your journey down to wherever you're going, where you can legitimately just pull a little berry like this and eat a berry. That was a bit sour. But that's what I'm talking about. For me, it's the small ways that you can connect to nature, because nature provides, and that's the reason why nature will always be my church. It was a very beautiful thing that every time it's like a very normal thing that people do when they're going through Harrow Lodge or they're just going through the park, is that you take a little berry and you just feast on it as a small little snack as you're going towards your destination, whether you live in Hornchurch or whether you live in Elm Park. That's exactly what people do. But in this video, we'll be talking about the Lamvatir, and something that I've really come across is that there is this little area where I'm actually staying right now, which is kind of cool. So obviously you have up there on the high ridge area, that's obviously where the park is and where all the grass is right there. Where we are right here, there's this huge lake kind of area. Obviously, some people have not been looking after this place very well, but I've only just discovered it. And the one thing I really love is that you see this little area here where the water flows across this rock. and it glitters off of the actual, the sun glitters down and shimmers across this bay. And then all the way down there, obviously some people have not really been taking care of this place, because you can see like there's a coat hanging over here. This is probably my second time of being here, but you can see that there's a lake coming down all the way over there. And I saw this little bed area, and I wanted a small little moment of just reflection. You know, not necessarily giving offerings to the gods, but necessarily having some time to myself, sitting in nature, looking upon this waterbed area. I just felt really gave me something to really think about. And this is just another form of what people call utasita. Now, as I said previously in some of my videos, is that the word utasita means to be sitting out, or to sit out in nature, and to be one with your thoughts, and just to be silent. Sometimes what I've learned is to just be silent and let the wind, hear the wind in your ears, or to hear the wings, the small wings of the flies cultivating together, or to listen to the crows and the crow calls. I find to be very, very motivating and very, very calming and very, very soothing. When I saw this River Bay area, I just thought to myself, you know what, I'd like a small moment with just nature. Because, what was it, I went to go and feed my son and my missus. So my missus does like a night shift, so she went to sleep. And I took my son out to the park just to have like a little moment in nature, and just have a little moment in nature so he can kind of like know what Norse paganism is like from my perspective. And for me, how I teach Norse paganism to my son, he's like 2.5, so he can't really understand like the mythology aspect or the stories yet. I'll have to wait until he's like 4 or 5 until he actually understands the stories of the gods and stuff like this. But for me, what I like to do is I just like taking him into the forest. I just like taking him into the park. I like to let him sit down in the dirt and play with the dirt and throw dirt, and to pick up sticks and to pick up feathers. And occasionally we go to like this little convenience shop that sells like fruits and veg, like really fresh fruits and veg, all organic. And we just buy some monkey nuts. And when we buy these monkey nuts, we legitly buy these monkey nuts and feed the crows with it. And I just find that little bonding experience, because when I say to him, oh, do you remember feeding the crows? He says, yeah, we feed the crows at the park. And I'm like, so he does have some recollection. Not necessarily something he's going to remember when he's an adult, but probably something he's going to have some form of recollection. Maybe he might think, oh, I remember when I was feeding crows, but he doesn't know the reason why. Or have like a love for feeding crows, but doesn't understand the reason why when he gets older. And then when I tell him, yeah, we used to feed crows, he'll be like, oh, that's the reason, you know? So it's building memories that I can look back on and say to him, oh yeah, we used to feed crows together and ravens, and that was us feeding and giving offerings to Odin. And I find that to be more inspirational. Like right now, a fly has just landed on my phone. So if we know about the story of Brock and Eitru, that is Loki. So just as much as it's about giving offerings to Odin, it's also about giving offerings to my small fly friend over there, Loki, who likes to play tricks. And I think one of the biggest tricks ever was, I was actually filming a video just recently, which was about go outside, and to share a message about going outside, because I was really feeling this vibe. Go outside was what the gods were telling me, and I was here spending time with nature, spending time with my son, and that particular reasoning was something that I personally felt was an inspiration by the gods. I made one video went completely well, but then I decided to be a bit prideful, a little bit more egotistic, and decided to make a second video. The time I went to make a second video, a bee came out of nowhere and stung me straight into my bicep, and it was so painful. But that was actually a little trick from Loki. That was actually the trickster Loki stinging you in the arm. But the reason why he did that is not to be an asshole to you, not to be horrible, but this is Loki's way of saying to you, focus on your son, for fuck's sakes. Focus on your son, because these precious moments are what it is. So for me, like, obviously I got lots of tattoos. When I get a bee sting, I don't really necessarily, or even a wasp sting, I don't necessarily worry. It obviously hurts and it's sore, but it made me focus a lot more on my son, because obviously I'm a little bit dazed out in pain. but the pain doesn't really, it's not problematic to me as much. So it made me focus on my son, focus on what my son was saying. And after a while, after getting some ibuprofen, I realized that necessarily that was what the gods were saying to you. Focus on your son, focus on what he is saying, focus on what he wants to do. In the end, he started giving me all these rocks and feathers, and I realized that that was important. Not necessarily making a video, but necessarily just spending time doing something that he wanted to do. Because it wasn't necessarily, obviously I love coming out here, but he's the one who finds the stones. He's the one that picks up the feathers. Obviously I showed him some of the trees and stuff that I liked, but that was something that I felt really helped him out, you know? But one thing that I was kind of inspired by to make this video and to sit near this riverbed was something that kind of inspired me about Lanvatirs, or Lanvabrock, that's what they would be called, but we call it Lanvatir, spirits of the land. And it's something to do with offerings, and it's something, the analogy I can really say about this was, I gave some lunch to my wife. Obviously she was asleep at the time, so I cut up like these cheese sandwiches and made some cheese sandwiches and some crisps for my son. So after we got back from like the park, he was a little bit dirty, he was a little bit grubby, so I gave him a bath, like any dad should do, give their son a bath. And in the end, like I cleaned him up, put some like clothes on him, and just like made him a cheese sandwich with some crisps and a drink, and put his tablet in front of him so he could watch his favorite show. And when I did that, he was just eating away all of this food, and I loved it. And I love watching him eat. It's such a cute kid, you know? But then I made some sandwiches for my wife, and I cut all these sandwiches up, and then I sliced them up, and then I dished them out like they were some kind of gourmet dish. Like perfection artist skills when it comes down to food. I'm not, I'm a terrible chef. But I made these sandwiches anyway. I put them in front of her, and she was asleep, so she was like, yeah, and then just went back to bed. So I just thought, okay, she'll eat them when she's ready. And this made me realize the analogy of when we give offerings to the gods and when we give offerings to the Lanvatir spirits, that's the difference. Because most of the time the gods are always going to be busy, and they always have so many things going on, especially when I follow, because I follow Odin the most. So when I give an offering to Odin, it's not always taken. Sometimes he might leave it, he might wander, and he might pick it up later on. But other times he might not always receive it. So most of the time I realized that I don't really give offerings to the gods that much. And historically, they never really gave offerings that much. Like when you first join Norse paganism, you seem to believe that you need to give offerings like every day. It's like they're doing in the Christian church. This is just not true. In Norse paganism, you can necessarily give an offering like once a month, and that's fine to any one of the gods, depending on who you work with the most. Because I work with Odin the most, and I channel Odin's energy a lot more and manifest his energy on a daily basis, I kind of give offerings to Odin maybe like once a month, and that's it. And sometimes to other deities, depending on how I'm feeling and depending on the situation that's going on at the moment. But usually once a month I give maybe an alcoholic beverage to Odin, or maybe some food, or like the only daily thing I do when I give an offering to Odin is that I give his ravens monkey nuts. And that's the only daily thing I do. And I whisper in the monkey nuts, so I put the monkey nuts in my hands, I whisper what I would like Odin to know, and then I cast the nuts out, and then they pick up the nuts, and obviously they tell Odin everything what's going on in the world, or what's going on around the place. So it only made sense that I whisper into the nuts and cast them off, and that's how I communicate to Odin. And then how Odin communicates to me is that I'll do like a rune pull session, and I'll pull out runes out of a bag, and that's how I communicate to Odin. That's how Odin communicates to me, either in life situations or the communication of what the runes tell me. And sometimes I do like a daily one rune pull. So one day I might pull out one rune, another day I might pull out another rune. I write down the rune, just like what Odin said in the Havamal, Lofandir, do you know how to write the runes? Lofandir, do you know how to pronounce the runes? Lofandir, do you know how to say the runes? And Lofandir, do you know how to know what they mean? So for me, I draw it out, I put a dot, I write down the name, and then I write down what that rune means to me, because I try to live by the runes. I've read them, I've studied them, and now I just kind of know by heart what they mean to me as a person by living them. So I realized that one way of understanding that is that I'll write down all these runes, and then I'll look down at my whole entire month, and that is Odin communicating me. Because you got to realize, Odin is a god of the long waiting period, or the long game. So obviously he's going to communicate to you using these kind of runes. So when you look at your month, you'll go, oh, so that's what Odin wanted for my month. And then you can prepare for the next month of kind of looking on what the runes and what they mean to you, and what they mean historically, and what they meant just in like what rune books say. And most of the time, rune books near enough the same thing about multiple different runes, depending on what rune book you're going to read. But this is me going into too much depth. So the analogy between my son and my missus I felt was a lot like the gods. When we give an offering to the gods, sometimes it gets received and they eat it, and other times they might see it and get around to it. But my son, I saw him like the Lamvatir spirit. You give him an offering of food and he will gracefully eat it. And this is what I love about the Lamvatir spirit. So when we feel disconnected from the gods, and maybe we might have been bridging out to the gods and feeling inspired, and then you kind of lose that inspiration, you lose that motivation and that yearning fire, then the bestest thing to do is to come out in nature and just give attention to the Lamvatir spirit. Most people who come by this stream just forget that there's a stream here. And most people just dump shit in here, which is really pissing me off. So one thing I want to do once I have money again is that I want to get like a trash bag, and I want to get one of them, you know, them trash things that you can have, like it's a long thing and it's a pincer. And I'm thinking about coming back here again and just picking all the rubbish out of this river, because that's going to make me feel better. I'm going to get like some black bags. I'm going to get like one of them pincer things. I'm going to take all the rubbish out of this stream. Because sure, people will most likely just throw trash back in here. But if I do it as like a daily thing, then I can build up a relationship with this Lamvatir spirit. And that will make me feel more connected to this land. But then the land really appreciates it. When you see a riverbed that doesn't have a lot of trash in it, and you pick up that trash, not only does it look nicer, so nature appreciates you, and you start appreciating nature as it is. So the beauty of nature is no longer destroyed by what's the bad offerings of other people. And there's like, the thing is about, there are live fish that live, there are ecosystems that live within this riverbed or within this stream. There are live fish that live their lives here. I feel so bad that there are bottles here, things that can kill this ecosystem. There are wild bugs, and there is actually a raven's nest. There is a crow's nest down that side of the river that has wild crows and wild ravens living there. I feel so bad that people will just leave their shit and their rubbish in a place that's so sacred, when people come here all the time to meditate. So why don't we give back to nature? So this August is not only my time of trying to live more minimalistically and try to live with less, but necessarily I believe to some degree that I feel like it's my duty as a Norse pagan, someone who believes in nature and someone who believes in the Lamvatir spirit and in the gods, to do my duty as a Norse pagan and pick stuff up, the bad offerings that people leave behind. So I might even make another video about that. But I just wanted to share this analogy with you, that the Lamvatir spirits are always here. So anytime you feel disconnected from the gods, or you feel like life is just shitty and getting you down, you know, if you live in Havering, come to Harrow Lodge. It's just here. It's just the riverbed here. It's just a park over there. What more do you need? This is what I'm talking about. Look at that. And one of my favorite things was like this. You see like this kind of like the flow of the river that goes over this stone and it just comes round here. I feel like there is a soul to this. There is a spirit to this. And I believe that that is the Lamvatir spirit. The Lambertier spirit doesn't have a human body like we do, but it has a spirit within nature. And if you can appreciate the flow of this river, no matter of all the bad offerings that you see in this river, because I really hate people sometimes. By the way, if any of you are throwing shit in this river, I fucking hate you. What's wrong with you? You know? But you see the flow of this river? I believe that there is a spirit to the glistening sunlight of this river. And therefore, I believe that that has life. So if you give like biodegradable offerings, like an apple, or, you know, like seeds, or if you give like oats, that can be naturally eaten and up by nature. But if you're going to give like an orange juice still in the carton, like this bad offering over here, what the fuck's wrong with you? Have you got some problem or something? So, if you like this video and the content on my channel is inspiring to you to go out into nature and pick up trash, or to legitly just give back to nature, then please like this video and please subscribe. Subscribing isn't going to cost you anything and it's completely free. And please follow my Instagram. It's at the Hipster of Odin. Doesn't cost you anything to subscribe to my Instagram. It's completely for free, and you can see like little extra things that I get up to. So until my next video, until my next rant in nature, until I see you again, thank you for watching my videos. Scal.